Good morning. I've got a busy day today full of fun things. We're going to take the head off the MD, hopefully, and assess that. I got a test to do on chicken drinkers in cold weather, our plastic chicken drinkers that may benefit some of you all. But first I got to get the grill going because I'm going to use it as a smoker today, and you'll see what I'm going to put on it. Smoking in 8-degree weather, you say? How can that be done? It works. What I've got here is my Weber grill set up as a smoker. By arranging the coals around the outside, I start one end, and then literally all day it will work its way around here, keep a steady temperature of about 200 to 225 degrees. I put some hickory on the top so that it burns the hickory on its way around. This is pork belly from our sow Missy, and I know I put it on frozen, but I didn't think to defrost it last night. It'll be just fine. What I'm going to do is I'll put the lid on and start it slow, let it thaw, and then I'll put a rub on it because we're going to have pork belly sandwiches for dinner. Now there's one more thing I got to do before I get started on the MD here. Hey piggers. Run, 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 run. I never get tired of that. We need this old thing. If any of you keep poultry in the winter, you know what a pain water is. This is what we do. We have these 5-gallon plastic drinkers, which we like, and we bring them in every night so they don't freeze. And then we fill them up and bring them back out in the morning. We used to use the 5-gallon metal drinkers, the double-wall drinkers, but those things stink. They rot out in a year, if that. And we would put them on metal heated bases with coils in the bases that kept the water thawed. What I would like to do is use that same heated base with this drinker. So here's my experiment. I've got an old heated base, which I've plugged in. I've got this old 5-gallon pail, which I filled with water, and we're going to set it on there and leave it on there all day long in this cold weather so the base gets just as hot as it's going to get, and we'll see what happens to the plastic. The metal base manufacturers say, oh no, don't use them on plastic, but I'm inclined to see for myself what really happens. Now, the shop's warmed up and it's time to get down to business. I got to finish removing a few things to get the head off. This is the coolant outlet from the head, and this cast piece needs to come off. Here's the way people used to convert magnetos to battery or distributor ignition units. They would just run a coil, here's the coil, and run it into the coil post of the distributor cap on the magneto. And that way you had distributor ignition, you had to run battery power to it. This has got to go because it's in the way, and I'm not gonna reinstall this system because it's cobbled. There. This is the head coolant outlet and thermostat housing. The thermostat's right in here. There's no thermostat in this tractor right now. I think that probably when the head cracked and they fixed it, they said, well, enough of this, took the thermostat out to make sure that the head ran as cool as possible. This is the line to the oil pressure gauge. Comes from a sender down on the bottom of the block. You've got to disconnect that. Now I got to take this assembly which holds the gauges, the diesel throttle control, and the steering shaft off so I can pull the head straight up. I think that back in the day when International made these tractors, they really thought about the farmer maintaining them a lot. For instance, if you run into a nut and a bolt where you need 2 wrenches to take it off, quite often one side is, well in this instance, 9/16 and the nut is 5/8. In case you only have one set of wrenches and you don't have 2 9/16, you can still take it off yourself. It's not like today where you need a computer to fix a tractor, if you can do that at all with all the right to repair crap in new tractors. One of the reasons I would never own a new tractor, unless somebody gave it to me. And I don't think I would take one of those green ones, even if somebody did give it to me though. That should be out of the way enough. Pull the plugs out. I had the plugs loosened up because last summer I took them all out and I poured ATF in to make sure the engine would free up, and the engine is free. We gotta take this linkage off, but this pin seems to be stuck. Yeah. That moved it. Sometimes it's the little things that take forever. My gosh. Now we'll take the rocker arms and push rods off. Let's look at the rocker arms and see what we see. I don't see anything amiss, just needs a good cleanup. This is that compression release shaft. Here's the actuator. Here are the cams that come down on the compression release valves. Yeah, no problems there. Push rods. These I don't bother to keep in order of what they came out of, because when I put the engine back together, I adjust the valve lash anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Now that I got the rocker arms off, you can see clearly this is the third valve, and see there's a spring under there. That's what increases the combustion volume of each cylinder to allow it to start on gas. Well, we better go check on the pork belly. Oh, she's smoking. 250. Yes, I washed my hands. Thawed. Let's put some rub on it. This is McCormick Montreal steak seasoning. It's my go-to for beef and pork.
Looks good.
It does. We're having this for dinner. I'm going to smoke it all day.
I'm going to love this.
Pork belly sandwiches. All right. Cover back on. And what about my chicken water experiment? Base is hot. Not that hot. No melted plastic yet. Well, now that we know dinner is progressing as planned, we can start to loosen up the head bolts. I am impressed with this. There is no wear marks at all on these valve springs. And usually you'll see where the tappets rode on them, but I don't see or feel anything. And the rocker arm mating faces, the tappet mating faces, looked the same. There's no groove from wear. So that's a good sign. Now that I got all the head bolts off, we can go ahead and lift the head off. And I'm gonna use the A-frame to do that. Put one bolt through one of the exhaust manifold holes and the other through the water outlet hole, and we'll pick it that way. Ah, that was easy enough. Broke loose. There. First thing, here's that crack that was brazed, and you can see the braze comes down and ends here. And I don't see any sign of a crack continuing past that. If we flip it over, these are the intake and exhaust valves. This is the third valve that opens the chamber to the spark plug up above and increases the compression volume. This is the injector port here, coming from the injectors up here. There's a lot of carbon from burning oil. You know, the valves, it's hard to tell from this end, but they're not all pitted and burnt. I'm not too worried by anything I see here, other than what a valve grind will cure as far as tightening up the valve seats and limiting blow-by. The seals around all of the cylinders where the gasket sat, there's a little bit of oil that ran onto them, but they all look intact. It wasn't leaking coolant or oil into the jackets or into the cylinders. That crack that ends here that was brazed, I don't see any sign of it. continuing through on the underside. But when the head's at the shop, they'll magnaflux it and make sure that there's not any real small cracks that I can't see. So it looks good to me. Now let's look at the pistons and see what we see. First of all, I'd really like to get away without putting new pistons in this because it's a lot of money. Piston sleeve sets, both hard to come by and a lot of money. So what do we see? This engine sat for quite a while. There's a little bit of surface rust you can see on the sleeve there. Nothing that can't be honed out. What concerns me most is this ridge. Let's get the light in here. What concerns me most is the ridge on the top, and the ridge is indicative of how much wear is on the sleeve from the piston coming up and down. Now there's a lot of carbon up here, so I can't really tell what the ridge is, and the only way I'm going to know is after I take the pistons out and then I hone this down a little bit and see how much wear is on it. The pistons, you know, I've seen worse. I've seen them wiggle in the bores, and these appear to be pretty tight, but again, you know, I'm not going to know until I pull the pistons out and look at them. One thing that concerns me about the pistons is on 3 of them I see chips on the side. Here, let me get the light. There's a little chip right there at 3 o'clock, and on this one there's a chip at 11 o'clock right out of the side of the piston where it meets the cylinder wall. There's one there again at about 10 o'clock, little chip. I can't see on this one because it's so heavily carboned. I don't see any chips. So I'm going to have to take the pistons out to really know what's going on and see if I can get away with just a ring job on it. Let's pull this head gasket and see if that tells us anything. No signs of leaks again between the cylinders. The top of the engine block looks good. I don't see any obvious cracks where they normally would be. And again, I'm not taking the block up to the machine shop because I think I can deal with what it needs here. I'll have the machinist measure warp on the cylinder head and deck it if need be. I don't usually have these blocks decked. Usually after I have the head trued, the head gasket seals just fine. I haven't had a big problem with top of cylinder block warpage, but I'll put a straight edge on it and make sure it's not warped badly. A little smoky in here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It smells good.
Yeah, it does.
So Henry, you want to hear some jokes? I'll take that as a yes. So did you hear the one about the guy who got hit in the head with a can of soda?
No.
He was lucky it was a soft drink.
Sure.
Hillary left. She couldn't take it anymore.
Can't.
Come on back, Hill. Come back here. Boy, she ran away. Hey, did you hear about the kidnapping at school?
Don't worry, he woke up. I know that one!
Oh, you got owned!
The other day I was driving down the road and I saw a sign that said, "Watch for Children." And I thought, sounds like a fair trade to me. You think it's fair trade? Watch for children?
I don't know, it depends on the child.
I spend all my time watching you. I'd probably just get like $10 Timex though. Alright, that's all my jokes. We gotta get back to work. Before I take this head up to the machine shop, I just have to strip it down a little bit. We gotta take the injectors out to begin with. Boy, I'll tell you what, these injectors are not easy to get out. Years and years of heat and crap on them made them tough. I had to soak these with penetrating oil and let them sit for a while. Let me show you how these injectors work. So this is the injector. Actually, if you take these 2 bolts out, you can pull the injector assembly out from inside here. Here's the injector nozzle right here. This is what's called a pre-cup engine, which is short for a pre-combustion cup engine. And what you have down here is the pre-combustion cup. So the injector sits down to that ridge in there, and it sprays into that little confined area where it starts the combustion reaction instead of having it happen within the main cylinder. And then the combustion chain reacts down into the main cylinder from there. Pre-cup engines are good because you can get by with a little less metal in the engine, but they are difficult to start when they're cold. The 656 has a pre-cup diesel engine too, and there's glow plugs going right into the pre-cups to heat that little area to get combustion going in a cold engine. And this is because the compression ratios aren't as high as for a modern diesel engine, where they can inject straight into the combustion chamber and ignite even when the engine is cold. The last thing I'm going to do today is drop the engine oil and let it drain out, at least overnight, before I start going into the bottom end of the engine. Doesn't smell as bad as I thought it would. I actually like the smell of really old oil. The next steps on this engine are to open up the bottom end, take the oil pan off. That way I can get the pistons out, assess the pistons, clean up the sleeves, assess the sleeves, look at the bearing clearances in the bottom, the rods and mains, see what they are, and then we'll get a better picture of the health of the engine. And I have to finish stripping off the block, take these last injectors out, take as many of the studs I can out, take this linkage out, and then get it up to the machine shop. How's our pork belly doing? We gotta take its temperature. That one's hit 170. So I'm gonna wrap them and cook them the rest of the way wrapped in foil. That was the easy part. We just close it up and let it cook till dinner time. How's our drinker experiment going? Still cycling on and off. It's warm. It hasn't done a thing to the bucket. The bucket's fine. The water's still thawed. It's pretty oily water. This is an old oil bucket I had. Based on what I've seen so far, I wouldn't have any qualms about putting one of those bases in under a plastic drinker, but I'm going to leave it overnight and just to see. It's going to get cold again tonight. Hey, it's the water cooler chicken. Howdy, cows. Time for dinner. Dinosaur barbecue sauce, homemade coleslaw. Today was an awesome day doing what I love, and now I can eat what I love for dinner. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.